Hey, how are we doing, guys? It's JH, the boxing fan here. I'm back with another video. In today's video, I'll be giving my reaction to last night's boxing action over in Arizona, where, of course, Bam Rodrigues unified the flyweight division in spectacular fashion, adding the IBF world title to his WBO world title in his defeat of Sonny Edwards. Just before we get into that, though, good to see some new subscribers to the channel. If not already done so, if you could keep smashing the like, share and subscribe button for me. And of course, don't forget to give your thoughts on the topics covered in the comment section down below. I'm always interested to hear those. Some of the pre-match comments by Sonny Edwards and so some suggestion of some illegal rehydration, IV rehydration used by the Bam Rodrigues camp. I'm sure if that was something that was duly concerned to Sonny Edwards, more would have been made of that. I'm not sure if it was just something he was saying to perhaps unsettle, but as he sometimes does with some of the things he says. But I thought it was just interesting, obviously, if there was anything grey in that area. I think it's something that would need to be looked into. We need to, I mean, I'm not necessarily a big fan of, or necessarily against these rehydrations by IVs if there have been substantial weight cuts, but I do think it's something that needs to be consistent and it needs to be monitored because obviously fighters' healths are at risk. So I certainly don't think those comments, if there was anything about them, should be taken lightly. So as for the fight itself, then, what did you make of it? Did you stay up and watch it? Have you caught up with it since? I have to say, I thought it was a fascinating contest. I thought Bam looked massive in there. I'd be interested to know what he came in the ring at size-wise. I thought he looked more like a bantamweight, absolute monster. And it was obviously Bam who early on sort of drew Sonny Edwards into a fight that I don't necessarily think would have been his plan. I thought that Bam would get to Sonny Edwards in the middle to late rounds, but I thought that Sonny Edwards might try to utilise and circle the ring, be in and out of range, but he ended up quite early on in a dogfight and spent more of the fight than I expected in fighting in the pocket. I had it quite even going into the fifth round. I think I had it 2-2 going into the fifth round, and then I thought that those middle rounds was where Bam sort of seemed to start to cause Sonny Edwards some real damage. I know he had put a dent in him early, and I thought whilst Sonny Edwards was able to sort of fire back and had some success of his own, that sort of style of fight really was played into Bam's hands. But so good on the jab, the way he was pressuring the fight, sort of stalking Sonny Edwards around the ring. Also reminded me a bit of Calero, the way he was so effective at cutting the ring off. And in the end, I think Sonny Edwards was so brave. He sort of stayed in there, and I think I saw a side of him that I've not seen before. Gained sort of newfound respect. The way he was sort of clearly getting a reaction from Edwards. You sort of see him smiling. Even at the end of the ninth, after Bam landed that straight left, which would have stopped, I think, so many fighters. The way that Sonny bravely got to his knee, gave him a royal smile, and then obviously the decision, I think, correctly taken, that he'd probably taken enough punishment and to retire the fighter, which I think was the right thing to do, to save him for another day. So really intriguing contest, I thought, and a spectacular performance from Bam Rodrigues. I know I mentioned it last week, I said Devin Haney, but I really think he's someone, he showed he's got everything. Sonny Edwards was trying everything, switching styles, trying to trade with him bravely, and he just didn't seem to really put a dent in him. I know he did have some success, I think at the end of the sixth, where he sort of backed him up onto the ropes, was able to get some shots off, but Bam just seemed to take it all in his stride. He didn't really take a back foot. And obviously that jab was so imposing, and obviously the extra reach factor that probably meant that Edwards found it harder to get in and out of range. I know that he mentioned some damage to his eye after the fight that was sustained quite early on, which is probably possibly why he said he couldn't sort of seem to get out the line with the jab as well. But I think take nothing away from that performance from Bam. He was spectacular. So he's going to take some real beating. I know his plan, he says now, is to vacate the belts and move up to £115 to fight Estrada. That promises to be a really interesting fight. And I think he's as I say, still young and he's got a lot more to achieve in the sport. And I'm sure he will go on to do really special things. As for Sonny Edwards, I think he'll take some time off now, reset, and he'll be back again. With still some big fights out there for him at flyweight. I think, unlike Bam, Sonny is a flyweight fighter. I don't know. I did think he looked gaunt sort of coming in actually on the scales. I don't know how easily he makes that limit, but I don't necessarily think he's got the ability to potentially go up in weight. Does he carry the power to do so? I'm not so sure. Whereas I think in the case of Bam, he should slot into that higher weight division a lot easier. Just my opinion, but we'll see what goes on there. But obviously the likes, as I say, of Galay FI, who picked up a win himself on the undercard. There's domestic fights such as that for Sonny Edwards still to be had. I know he's talked about Cesar Martinez in the past. I think that's a really intriguing fight that I'd be interested in watching. But obviously, given the nature of that defeat, I think he'll just need to take some time out, get himself right, and then he'll be back again, I'm sure. But his start's gone out. As I say, I've never seen Edwards in a fight like that. He showed real heart and determination. Further example of the fact that it's not all about the heavyweight division. We've seen some really intriguing fights this year throughout the division. The heavyweight division has let us down. We've not seen the fights we wanted to see. I think AJ has been in a couple of disappointing fights, really, by his standards. One that I was at the O2 Arena when he fought Franklin, which didn't quite take off in the way we'd hoped. Likewise, in his follow-up fight, and obviously Fury just fighting the once against Ngannou. Usyk to Bois was interesting, intriguing, but not necessarily one we wanted. But last night's contest, as I say, the top two in the division, undefeated, both bringing their belts to the line, and similar to fights we've seen this year at middleweight and other divisions, it's really shown how boxing can be so exciting right the way through the weight classes. Just very quickly on the undercard then, I enjoyed the fight, the chief support at the Uzbek fighter Melody Evan against Gonzalez, the WBA title eliminator to bantamweight. Although perhaps went on slightly longer than it needed to for me. I thought that Peter McGrail was unlucky. He was boxing really nicely before he walked on to that heavy shot. Quite straightforward wins by unanimous decision, of course, for Galay FI, who wins the international title at flyweight and wins for GNA Boston as well. So that's it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in as always. And you can catch me on the next video where I'll be looking ahead to this weekend's heavyweight showdown over in Riyadh. Promises to be a really intriguing night's worth of boxing and a chance for the heavyweights to round up the year, give us some really interesting fights there. So catch me on that one. We've got Lyndon Arthur in action as well, of course, against Dimitri Bivol, and that's a fight that I'm really looking forward to. And Jan Opetaia in action. Interesting to see that he's been taking some stick and looking like he might have to vacate his belt as a result of taking that contest. How do you feel about that? I think that's a real sad news story. I think these boxers obviously deserve to be well remunerated for the entertainment they give us. And for me, I'd like to see some of these governing bodies perhaps extending a bit more leniency in the nature of the way they take these decisions. That's it for me, guys. Thanks for listening as always, and I'll catch you in the next one.